Are you waiting for someone to recognize your value or give you the opportunity that you've been looking for? Listen, your career is not a waiting game, it's a negotiation. So don't just sit there. Make a move for you. Welcome to How to Get What You Want. This podcast is for driven women ready to claim their goals and navigate their careers with clarity and confidence. Join me as we explore real stories, tools, and strategies to help you steer your career exactly where you want to go. Let's get started on helping you get what you want. Hey, friend, I am so glad that you made the choice to be here today. I am just so excited because I've heard some stories from people that are listening and they're sharing the episodes and they're sharing with me the stories of how this kind of hit them. One woman said, smack in the middle of her forehead of just understanding what you may be missing. And when I said, are you making the right moves? It is something to really think about. We sometimes get passive about our careers or what we're doing, and we're waiting for something to happen where that momentum needs to happen from us and not from somebody else. The reason I say it takes what it does, the power is in adopting a negotiator mindset, is because when you think like that, it actually opens up opportunities for you to see things around you that you didn't notice. It makes you ask questions like, "Oh, that's interesting. Why did they get that? Why not me? What if I said yes? What are opportunities that are going around?" And it's so important to just have that optic lens, but then you have to have the courage to move forward or make the move because that's who people want to be a part of their organization, to be motivated, to be excited. People want to give people opportunities, but they don't like to just hand them away. People think that if you work really hard, then they'll think about you as somebody that needs the opportunity. But the real truth of the matter is they look at who is raising their hand. They look at who has said, I'm ready for the next thing. Because what that is somebody that has that opportunity or wants to put somebody in the place, that shows you have confidence to move forward. And people don't like to make the wrong choice. And so you have to convince them to do it. When you just stay quiet and just wait to be rewarded, people think that you're satisfied and you don't want that. It's not about performance, it's about positioning. And some people feel really uneasy about that when you talk about advocating for ourself. I have people that say, "Oh, that just feels selfish." When you think about just sitting back, when we think about influence and strategically negotiating our careers, it just feels like that is not the way we use that language. But when you use those terms and you start talking about it that way, you get more comfortable with it. There's a lot of research that shows that when employees are actively engaged and they advocate for their growth, whether it's a raise, promotion, stretch opportunities, they actually progress faster than those who wait to get noticed. Even Harvard Business Review reported that self-advocacy and networking is critical in promoting yourself and giving you visibility as a leader in the organization, as somebody that has value. And when you believe in your own value and you celebrate that, people believe it too. Don't leave it to them to figure that out. Tooting your own horn or blowing your own horn isn't just about saying, "Oh, look at me, focus on me." It's about saying, "Listen, this is the value that I bring. We need to expand that. How can I do more?" So it's really a strategic negotiation. And the reason I want you to think about movement around that is if you feel like you have been somebody that's kind of waited until you're asked or waited for that opportunity, or you just think, I just will work really hard, that's just not a good strategy. People around you may be doing it. In fact, people are asking for more. It's behind closed doors so you don't hear it. But when you understand that, doesn't that make you want to try too? Like, why not just equal out the playing field? It is so imperative. And I can't tell you how many people, when I talk to groups and teams about networking, and building your influence and having an influence map. And what that means, so many people say, yeah, I know that's a priority. I just don't have the time. Oh, that just hurts my soul because that's saying I'm putting the business before me. And not that you don't care about the business and not that you should be business oriented, but you don't leave yourself out of that. You provide value in the role or you wouldn't be in the role. And being really happy and being satisfied and feeling challenged makes you a better at what you do. It makes you more enthusiastic about what you do. You even perform better. So you're actually giving more when you really understand that value and think about the movements. That's really going to be the theme today. What are you doing? Are you sitting back and waiting? Start to notice the evidence of, do you in meetings question, why did they ask that? What's the power move going on here? What are the behaviors that you're paying attention to? Are you moving? Are you leaning in? Or are you sitting back? I remember this so well because I did sit back in my career. Hey, Susie here. Thought I'd pop in. I wanted to let you know I've been an executive coach for over a decade. I work with executives and they call me their silent partner because I help them increase their confidence when they're facing really difficult decisions. If you'd like to see if we're a good fit, head over to susietalmanchuk.com and fill out an application. I'd love to hear from you. This whole idea of movement and moving. Are you moving? Are you leaning forward? Gosh, talk about hitting you straight in the middle of your eyes. For me, this has hit me so many times in my career. As I've talked about before, my colleague Dan always asked for things. And he even asked that people on my team reported to him. He got accounts that were mine because they were, quite frankly, producing a lot of revenue, and actually asking that I report to him because he understood that that would make him look better. And I say that because he was always thinking about movement. He was always thinking about what would benefit him. Now, he was doing it from a selfish perspective, right? Because he did want his revenue to really equate to additional commission, and that was a motivator for him. But my point here is I never thought about those movements. I would have never thought. I was so appalled by the fact that he asked for things, but he did, and he got them a lot of the time. He got opportunities to go to different things. He got opportunities to get training and development, to take clients places. Yes, he did get no's, but he got yeses. And that helped in the way he was successful in his career. I really respected that. And it actually helped me because it really illustrated the power in that. I just would sit back. In fact, one time we were in a staff meeting and our boss was talking about this opportunity to lead this project across all departments. And I remember in my mind thinking, gosh, I wish I had the experience to say yes or to say, I want to do it. And of course, Dan did. He didn't have that much more experience than me, but he did. And I justified it in my head like, oh, yes, he has more exposure. He has more experience. Like in my own head, kind of balance out the reason why he got it. I wish I wouldn't have done that. I wish I would have seen it for, that's interesting, Susie. Is that something that you should have just went for? Say yes before you're ready. I didn't learn that until later in my career. And I think about another situation where I was a team player and would do what's right for the business. It actually, in the long run, cost me my job because even though I was really investing in the people around me, they didn't like me being around and they saw me as a threat. So the as soon as they had the opportunity to make sure I didn't look good, they did. So sometimes it's really important to be your own advocate because who else has your back but you? And it makes it easy for other leaders to do this. I actually heard a C-level person talking at a leadership conference, and she said, it wasn't until I got into my current role that I realized that there is a lot of opportunities across the business. And if you leave it up to me to decide if you're ready, that makes it harder for me to find the right fit. It's easier for me when people are basically in my face saying, "Hey, I'm ready. I want more exposure. I'd love this development." And those people that are like the squeaky wheel, that's actually what we used to call Dan. But man, that worked for him. But I'm not saying be a Dan like squeaky wheel, be your own squeaky wheel. And what she was saying was, you're making my job easier by putting yourself, by being seen, by saying, listen, I'm ready for more. And it's okay to, in your mind, go, I'm not sure how I'm going to do it. I'm uncertain that I have the right experience. You'll figure it out. But understanding and seeing that around you. So I learned to go to meetings and not multitask, go to meetings and start paying attention to what is the power in the room? Who are making moves? How did they get that? How did they ask for that? What are the ways you can do that? And I learned to stop limiting myself. When those thoughts of doubt come in your head, being able to say to yourself, listen, that is my automatic reaction. Listen, it is research based that our minds are making sure that they're protecting us and they want to make sure that we don't risk ourselves. They're so powerful, right? There's things that we don't think about when we walk out to our car and there's ice. Yes, we might be more cognizant of exactly where our foot goes. But all the other times, we aren't thinking about those inches and those milliliter, those little places where we could potentially fall. Our mind is in control of all that, and it protects us by making us wait for that light. And the same is true for when we have self-doubt. That amplifies that voice to go, "Wait, you're not ready. You shouldn't put your hand up." And it's not as literal as that, but it's these nuances of self-doubt that go, "You know what? Don't do that. Don't raise that hand. You're like, this isn't a good time. This person's better." So in this whole idea of movement, I want you to think about what moves are you making? And when you make that shift in that mindset, it helps you see, like a negotiator, those opportunities around you so you can opt in instead of opting yourself out by just waiting. That's what happens. We opt ourselves out. We don't even give ourselves a chance. Sometimes when we are a self-advocator, it may feel uncomfortable to us. It doesn't sound the same to the other person in front of us. The other person might go, "Oh, that's really interesting. I never thought about them for that position and that role. They would be great at that." We're seeding an idea for them. That's what that woman was saying. I don't really know who would be best. When they give me a little bit of context around why they're so good, what contributions they're giving, it gives me more data and context to make the decision. And that's showing movement, whatever that is for you. However that looks for you. I'm not telling you to become somebody you're not, but how do you advocate? How do you move? How do you see these opportunities? Because your career is yours. You think that there might be somebody shepherding you along, or it might be your boss that's responsible for that. They're responsible to help you in your current role. How do you expand beyond that? What's next for you? So thinking about that movement, where do you get started? What does that really mean, Susie? I had this conversation with this leader yesterday about how their company is so good at branding things and they have these words that they use internally and nobody really knows what it means. But they love it because it's such a great sounding thing about how we do culture and how we do these different things. And that movement, I want to give you some real tangible tips to be thinking about. And the first one is clarity. Spend time every month or every quarter just thinking about what you want to do. Think about where you want to develop. Allow yourself to think really big. Write it down, spend time with yourself. Think about what's next for you. Are you happy with where you are in your role? Are you happy with the company? You happy with your boss? Are they challenging you? When you think like this, you operate in clarity and not just desire. It makes you see what that future could hold for you. And it doesn't mean you're going to step into all those opportunities, but then it actually opens up those optics to see, oh my gosh, there's an opportunity to do development. I want to take this course or I want to work with this coach. I want to move myself forward. And it also gets you really clear to say to your boss, I've been thinking about this. I spend every month, every quarter, really looking at where I want to develop. I want to share this with you so that you know where I'm thinking. I want to expand beyond my role so that you can help me advocate for me. You can see optically where I need to go. So getting that clarity is really important because then it gives you the words to use with other people. All right. The second one is to make that ask before you're ready. It goes both ways around. If you see an opportunity, do you just raise your hand before you're ready? But also saying to your boss, like in that last tip when I was mentioning how to frame this to your boss, tell your boss where you're going and different mentors around, and even asking the question, who else needs to know this about me in the organization? That's an ask. That's an ask of how do I position myself so I'm in front of the right people and what do I say to them? And then when you get in front of those people and you want to really tell them what is really good about what you do, that gives them that context about you. Think about it as informing them about the value you already bring to the organization. And you're telling them, hey, listen, this is really great. Why don't we amplify this? I can provide value to this other part of the organization or to you in this role because I have this skill. And even if you have some, it's a growth area for you, you'll figure it out. And figuring it out is how you really grow. That's acceleration of you as a professional. So think about what that next move will be for you and who could you ask? It's such a powerful thing to go to your boss and say, this is what I'm thinking about, or I want to go, who needs to know this? Who do I need to know? It's an easy question and they will respect you for asking it. And it will make them think about who those people will get. And by the way, it's giving you permission to go to those people because they might say one of their colleagues or somebody that's up in the organization. And that gives you additional networking, two birds, one stone. So there you go. Make the ask before you're ready. Make those relationship building a priority. I know we're all busy. I know it's like, oh my gosh, that's the last thing that's on my list because I'm so bombarded. Make space in your calendar, even once a week, to make a connection. Be strategic about it, asking your boss who you need to know, asking a mentor who you need to know, asking a colleague. Make connections, even asking them to make a warm introduction to that person. And if it's inhibiting to you because it makes you nervous, work with somebody. I mean, it's about that relationship. And some of the easy ways to make connections is to just be real and say, hey, listen, I watch you in these meetings. I love how you lead. How did you get that skill? Or is it something that you have to really work on every time? Because how you show up is really authentic. That's how it looks to me. Boy, people are just blown away if you notice what they do every day. Or say something like, listen, I talked to your boss or the people that work in your team and they love working for you. How do you inspire those people? It's really great questions when you make people think they like you more because they think you're smart. And when you make them think, you give them value. So try to change that lens around networking and making connections as not selfish, always thinking about how can I bring value to somebody else. But it's also important. We all know it, but it's hard to make a priority of it. So make that a priority for you. And even putting 15 minutes on your calendar to schedule that connection point with somebody or that ask with your boss in your next one-on-one. Just try to make an extension every day. So the tips are to really get clear, spend time with yourself to think bigger than you would at what's next for you, what's making you happy, where do you need to develop. The second is make the ask or be ready for the ask before you're ready and make the ask. Who do you need to know? Where do you need to go? Where do you see me developing? And the third is really prioritize building your influence, building your network, getting to know others, and really giving first to the people around you. That's how you really build those relationships that are built on trust and that's how you have influence within the organization. I really like this idea of movement, and I think what makes me really passionate about it is I can look back on my career and see so many places where I was just waiting and sitting back and working really hard and giving to the people around me and the people down, but not thinking about the people that need to know who I am, what my team does, what I need to do. And thinking about this movement for me. It's your career, Susie. What do you want to do next? And even if it's you've been in your career, you're very seasoned and you're an executive level person, what's next for you? How do you shift something so you can be an expanded leader? Do things that you haven't done before, even if it isn't about asking or developing, really challenging yourself. How can I get better? What do I need to do? So think about this. Here's the question I want to ask you. Where are you in your career? And where have you been waiting instead of moving? And what one way you can make a move, a negotiation, if you will, for your career that you actually want? And make sure it feels a little sticky. So think about, how are you approaching your career? It's a good time to ask this because we're so busy and we have this busy culture and people will make you feel justified in using that as an excuse because everybody's just saying it. It becomes this cultural thing. How are you? I'm busy. Listen, you need to make time to figure out what's important to you and what moves you're going to make because you're the only one that's in this for you. So you need to do that. And it helps others around you who are in the roles to provide you that development to see how they can place you. They don't know, don't assume they do. We all live in our own head and we think it's easy to read our minds, but listen, nobody's mind readers. What they don't know about you is important for them to be enlightened about how you can provide value. They don't know. How are you going to tell them in your voice, in your way? So your career's in your hands. You're making the moves that are going to get you to where you want to go into your future. Adopting a negotiator mindset allows you to really think about how do you frame that? What is the leverage I have? What are the opportunities around me that others are getting? It makes you question those things and just have more awareness in your everyday. Whew, if you wanna hear more, I talk about stories in my newsletter, and you can get that at negotiationlove.com. Woo, almost forgot that. I'm so glad you made the choice to be here because negotiation is more than a skill, it's a mindset, and I value your time here. Share this with somebody that you think needs to hear it, and I'd love to hear from you. Reach out to me. Tell me your story. Tell me what would be really helpful for me to talk about right here in your ear. I'm Susie. Until next time.